President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris made a joint campaign appearance today in Philadelphia to launch their Blacks for Biden Harris. It is the outreach effort that will define this campaign over the next 5 months. The initiative comes with Biden's approval ratings among African Americans at dangerous low levels. And so we're going to be, of course, breaking this whole thing down, as we always do. Here is Vice President Kamala Harris today.
Yes, you did. And in 2024, with your voice and your power, we will win again. Philadelphia, in Joe Biden, we have a fighter, a leader with skill, vision, determination, and compassion. A leader who keeps his promises. As a candidate for president, Joe Biden gave his word that we would fight to address some of the biggest issues facing the Black community, and we have delivered. In 2020, Joe Biden and I vowed that we would lower the cost of health care like insulin. For far too many years, too many of our seniors with diabetes had to make the awful decision about either filling their prescription or paying their rent. And Black Americans are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. So we capped the cost of insulin for our seniors at $35 a month. And under Joe Biden's leadership, finally, we took on Big Pharma and finally gave Medicare the power to negotiate drug prices. We also took on the issue of debt, which makes so many people feel like they can never get ahead. Take, for example, medical debt. We are now making it so medical debt can no longer be included on your credit score. So that medical debt cannot impact a person's ability to get a car loan, an apartment lease, or a home loan. In 2020, we promised to forgive student loan debt. And I'll tell you, I have a unique position as vice president to spend a lot of time with our president. And on this subject, I remember sitting in the Oval Office with our president, Joe Biden, shortly after the United States Supreme Court struck down our initial plan to forgive billions of dollars in student loan debt. A different leader, a different kind of leader, would have thrown in the towel. Not Joe Biden. Not Joe Biden. And I'm going to tell you what he said that day. I'm going to tell you what he said that day. This is not over. On the line. Black Americans, I'm going to quote, excuse the language, "What the hell do you have to lose from a Trump presidency?" And sadly, we all know too well, when he was president, Donald Trump tried over and over to get rid of the Affordable Care Act and to take health care then from millions of Black Americans. Year after year, he proposed cuts to Social Security and Medicare so that so many of our seniors would be deprived on what they rely on to live with dignity. And then he handpicked 3 members of the United States Supreme Court, the court of Thurgood, with the intention that they would overturn Roe v. Wade, and as he intended, they did. And today, 1 in 3 women and more than half of black women of reproductive age live in a state with an abortion ban, a Trump abortion ban. And if he wins a second term, I promise you he's going to go even further. So all of this is to say, who sits in the White House matters. It matters. It matters for the people of the world. As Vice President, I've now met with over 150 world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, and kings. And I cannot tell you how many times one of those leaders has pulled me aside and talked about how much the world relies on us and on Joe Biden's leadership. His defense of democracy, his commitment to the ideals of freedom and liberty and equality, and his willingness to fight for these ideals. And as the people of Pennsylvania know, our president does not only know how to fight, he knows how to win. In 2020, we promised to take on the issue of the epidemic of gun violence, knowing that today in America, gun violence is the #1 cause of the death of the children of America. Not car accidents, not cancer, gun violence. We took on the issue knowing black Americans are 10 times as likely to be the victim of gun homicide. And I'll tell you, I have personally held too many hands of mothers and fathers as I attempted to comfort them after their child was killed by gun violence. So to address this crisis, under the president's leadership, we passed the first major gun safety law in nearly 30 years. A bipartisan law to strengthen background checks. And again, I sat in the Oval Office with the president, where he sat down with Democrats and Republicans and appealed to their better selves. And that's why, for the first time in 30 years, it happened as a bipartisan deal. We created the first White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention, which I lead, and has now invested $1 billion to hire mental health counselors in public schools to help heal the mental trauma of gun violence. And Philadelphia, in all of our work, the president has been guided by a fundamental belief. We work for you, the American people, not the special interests, not the billionaires or the big corporations, but the people.
President Joe Biden also took it to Donald Trump, and this is what he had to say here.
It's the same guy who wanted to tear gas you as you peacefully protested George Floyd's murder. The same guy who still calls the Central Park Five guilty, even though they were exonerated. He's that landlord who denies housing applications because of the color of your skin. He's that guy who won't say Black Lives Matter and invokes neo-Nazi Third Reich terms. We all remember Trump is the same guy who unleashed birthism, the birthism lie against Barack. And then Trump tells you he's the greatest president. I love this one. He says he's the greatest president for black people in the history of America, including more than Abraham Lincoln. I mean, can you fathom that? Where in the hell? Like I said, I think he injected too much of that bleach in his country. I think it affected his brain.
All right, folks. So the event was held today in Philadelphia, and there's several things I got to speak to, and that is, first and foremost, I don't understand how the campaign decided to have this major initiative rollout, this major rollout that was one of the most quiet kept. They had a number of people who were there, a number of black elected officials, Governor Wes Moore, Brandon Scott, the mayor of Baltimore. You had Aaron Ford, who is he was of course, the Attorney General in Nevada. So again, I'm not understanding why a bigger deal wasn't made of this. I didn't find out about it till this morning when they sent out about 5 a.m. this directive. This is the press release right here, y'all. You see it right here. This is the media advisory from yesterday. President Biden and Vice President Harris to hold campaign event in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. On Wednesday, May 29th, President Biden and Vice President Harris will travel to Philadelphia for a campaign event. Additional details to follow. This was sent out yesterday, let's see here, at 11:30 a.m. That was it. That's it? That's how you explain that. So you're doing this whole big rollout. Congresswoman Barbara Lee, working a phone bank there. So all these different things. Again, my thinking is if you're rolling out this major initiative, you do it big. Any black entertainers there performing? You had 4 speakers, a young woman, you had a small business owner, the vice president, the president. That was it. And guess what? MSNBC didn't carry it live. CNN didn't carry it live. So what happened here? The reason I'm saying all of this is because this is the kind of thing that I've been talking about in terms of how do you reach black voters and how do you, in terms of what's the game plan to do so. I was texting several people today trying to figure out what the hell was going on, scrambling, sitting here, okay? And here's the deal. Had somebody given me a heads up yesterday, I would have driven to Philadelphia. I would have broadcast this show from Philadelphia. All those other black folks who were there, 1,000 people that rally, you would have seen their faces, heard from them. I would have had sound bites, all kind of stuff right here on Roland Unfiltered. The campaign didn't tell anybody. That makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me. So they're going to be doing things over the next several days. Got events in Virginia. Here's my advice to the Biden-Harris campaign. Have a black media strategy to tell black people. I think in many ways, today's event was treated like it's a local event. You don't roll out a national initiative and you treat it like it's a local event. Are they going to be flooding black syndicated radio shows? I hope so. Are they going to be offering up people to come on this show and others and podcasts? I hope so. I'm just saying today's event left a lot to be desired. My panel joins me right now. Rebecca Carruthers, Vice President, Fair Elections Center out of D.C. Robert Patillo, host People, Passion, Politics, News Talk 1380 WAOK out of Atlanta. Julianne Malveaux, economist and author out of Washington, D.C. You know, this is the thing here, Rebecca. It was very frustrating for me today to wake up and I see this notice, and it was in the Washington Post, and it was like, what the hell is this? Where did this come from? And I had black media people hit me, had no idea what's going on, who knew. And then, so they had pool coverage. Well, I had to explain to the campaign, you got to pay to be a part of the pool. So if you don't, on the pool coverage, you don't get the video. And so it's like, I just don't get it. I just don't get what, if you're going to roll out a national initiative, roll it out. There's a way to do it. For me, today, okay, and look, Brian Tyler, he went on MSNBC, he went on CNN, okay, but that's not how you do a rollout. That's just me.
Roland, I'm actually in Philadelphia right now. I've been here all day. And as I walked around the streets today, the only thing I heard people talk about was how bad traffic was. Oh, yeah, I think Biden and Vice President Harris is here today. But no one knew what they were going to talk about. No one knew what this aspect of the campaign is about. And this includes Black folks that I talked to. I was actually in town today to talk to a bunch of Philadelphia district high school students about voting and the need to register to vote and the need to be a part of community and to get engaged and get informed. So even here in the city in which they were campaigning, there wasn't a lot of information for people who were here in the city who I guess were the targets.
Right. So if you're gonna roll out this major initiative, my deal is you hype that up. I mean, it's like, yo, Harris, Biden, they're coming. Launch this major initiative next week. Here are the folks who are gonna be here. And then what you do is you fan people out. I mean, again, it's like if this was, I guess this is supposed to be a national rollout. I don't know really what the hell it was. I'm just being straight up honest. And again, I've been texting campaign people all day. I've been on the phone. I've been calling other people. And I'm like, okay, if this supposed to be the major thing it is, who knew?
The politicians might have known about it, but guess what? The activists, the people who actually knock doors and turn out voters across Pennsylvania, especially Black voters in Philadelphia County, some of them aren't even in Philadelphia today. They're out of town at a conference preparing for the fall. So like the total lack of strategy here, it bewilders me. But here's the other thing that caught me off guard is for months and for years, we have been criticizing this administration for not talking to Black folks. Listening to them and the soundbite that you played at the top of the show, they're talking to Black voters. But guess what Black folks need first? We need them to talk to us as equals. We need them to talk to us as constituents before you turn around and talk to us as voters. Because when you're talking to us as voters, it becomes purely transactional. And Black people aren't feeling it this year. And it's going to be tough if this is how the Biden-Harris administration is rolling out their outreach to Black voters.
This is what I have been saying on this show, on radio, on social. And so no one can say, oh, this is all new, Robert. I have been saying that the period from January to August is what I call information enlightenment stage, where you are having these town hall discussions, you're speaking to people, you're sitting here laying these things out, you're talking about policies, how they have helped people directly. Then the second phase is you're trying to then get them to register. The third phase is to get them to vote. I can't ask you to vote in May if I haven't explained to you what I've done. And not just what I've done, what I'm going to do over the next 4 years. I sat there and I heard what the vice president had to say. I heard what President Biden had to say. Do you know what I did not hear, Robert? I actually didn't hear, this is what I'm going to do for you if I get reelected. That's kind of important.
You're absolutely correct, Roland. And the problem is that the Biden administration or the Biden-Harris campaign, they want national attention without having to answer actual national questions. They're so afraid that any event that they have, if they publicize it, that you'll have anti-Palestine or anti-Israeli protesters there, that you'll have people interrupting the speech, running on stage, etc., that they don't want to publicize their events. And because of that, you kind of end up in this Gordian knot where you can't push these issues as much as you want because you're running afraid of Middle Eastern policy and understanding the close connection that many African Americans have with the plight of downtrodden people in Palestine. We saw the same thing last week in Atlanta at the Morehouse speech, where some of the students turned their back, and because of that, you didn't see them having an entire weekend of events around the president coming. Normally, the president comes to Atlanta, they show up, they go to Ebenezer, they tour the civil rights events, they have a town hall meeting on Friday with all the civil rights organizations, etc. They did none of that. They flew in under the radar. They zoomed into Morehouse. They gave a quick speech and they zoomed out of Morehouse as fast as possible. I'd like to mention the commencement address at Clark Atlanta was far better. One of the best Dr. Brown and require everybody to listen to that speech if you get a chance. But the Biden-Harris administration is going to have to stop running scared. They're going to have to realize that I cannot appeal to black people without offending some white people. And you're going to have to make a decision of which one of those voting bases was more important. That for everything that was done at that event in Pennsylvania today, having one sentence on reparations would have done more than everything the rest of that speech did. And yes, that will scare off some Midwestern Rust Belt voters, but those people are already going to vote MAGA anyway. If they had one sentence in there talking about, look, we didn't get criminal justice reform done, but this is how we're going to get it done before the fall. Or we didn't get voting rights done. This is how we're going to get it done before the fall. I just saw Mike Johnson go to the White House and strike a deal on foreign aid with President Biden when they said that could never happen at all. The reason they ousted McCarthy was over this issue of federal aid, foreign aid to Israel and Ukraine and Taiwan, etc., and they got it done. So don't tell me you can't negotiate on voting rights. Don't tell me you can't negotiate on criminal justice reform. So their message is falling on deaf ears, and they need to take all the black folks they got in that room in the White House making these black policies and just show them out the door. Bring Roland and some more folks in who really know how to talk to these communities. You're going to have to get on Black AM radio. You're going to have to get in and not just go on the Breakfast Club because you think that talks to the most people. You're going to have difficult conversations with the black community about what hasn't gotten done and what's going to need to get done. But if you just want these self-aggrandizing and campaign styles where you have no questions and you play flowery music, you're going to continue to see those numbers drop. I don't see a turnaround coming anytime soon.
Julian, let me be perfectly clear. Do I believe there needs to be a concerted effort to reach black voters? The answer is yes. Do I believe that what the vice president has been doing when she's been traveling, she went to Atlanta, she was in Detroit, they're planning other stops talking about economic policies? The answer is yes. But I also think it has to be different. I thought in Detroit, in Atlanta, there was Q&A with the guys with Earn Your Leisure. In Detroit, it was a traditional speech. In Milwaukee, it was a Q&A with D.L. Hughley. To me, though, I think they should be town hall conversations. I think there should be questions from a variety of people, again, talking about economic issues. I believe that, again, if you're going to have, and again, I'm sitting here looking at Twitter, and I'm looking at all of these different black elected officials who were there. You got the Attorney General from Nevada, criminal justice issues, the governor of Maryland, the mayor of Baltimore, and other black mayors as well. And I'm just sitting here going, okay, great. That was a rally there that lasted 39 minutes. We live streamed it. 2 speakers, president, vice president. Okay, what else was there? Again, if this was the big national rollout, I'm sorry. It was like hot air being let out of a balloon because folk didn't know. This is just me. If I'm gonna have a national rollout of Blacks for Biden-Harris, it was at 2 p.m. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say, okay, what black syndicated radio show host is in afternoon drive time? That's D.L. Hughley. Hey, D.L., we want you broadcasting your show from the site of the rally. So when the rally is over, we're going to take a lot of these officials and we're going to walk them right over to you and have them on your show. That's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to sit here and say, I want other, if there are any radio talk show hosts who are in drive, look, Karen Hunter's show was in the afternoon, around the same afternoon, even the same time. I'm going to have her there as well. Again, I'm actually trying to make this thing a big thing. That's what I'm doing. I'm sitting here thinking about black podcasters. I'm thinking about black digital shows. I'm thinking about black influencers on social media. That's what I'm doing. I'm sorry. I didn't feel any of this. And I'm just like, again, I was a little pissed this morning because I had no idea it was even happening. And I was like, and again, it's 2 hours down the road. I mean, I made clear, if they had said anything, I would be doing this show right now from Philadelphia, and even if it wasn't at that location, I would be at some black location, and I would have black folks from Philadelphia, activists and others on the air.
Roland.
You would see interviews. You would see interviews Right now,
One of the clumsiest rollouts.
you would see. Hold on. You will see interviews.
Hello?
You will see interviews of Wes Moore, of Brandon Scott, the other black mayors, of Aaron Ford. You will see all of that. That to me, you've got to plan that stuff out to get maximum effect. The cable networks totally ignored it, and so I guarantee you, by this time tomorrow, if they look back and look at the coverage, you're going to literally see about that much coverage because, frankly, it wasn't rolled out properly.
Well, Roland, what I'm seeing is, first of all, I want to say something to Robert. I want to just say, congratulations, brother. You did a good job, and you keep it going. We appreciate your run. You did. So I just want to say that to you while we're sitting here together. You, my brother from Rainbow, and I appreciate you so much. That one is one of the clumsiest rollouts that I have ever seen. Clumsy, MF, clumsy. Why be so clumsy? This is news. Meanwhile, the orange man is taking up the space of the world. Forgive me for wearing orange today. It is my favorite color, but whatever. But he's taking up all the space of the world. This could have been huge. But it's not huge because they didn't call Roland Martin. They didn't call Karen Hunter. They didn't call anybody. They're sitting there underground in Philly like they ashamed of themselves. They shouldn't be ashamed of themselves. This is why Biden is going to have a very hard time winning. They have to thump themselves on the chest. They have to say, this is what we're doing. It's insufficient to go to Morehouse and then, as Robert said, then hide. You go there, you give a great speech, but then you run and hide. It's insufficient there's so many things that are just so insufficient. But President Biden should have had a meeting with Dr. Daniel Black, who was the commencement speaker at Clark Atlanta, who brought it. He should have had a one-on-one with him, a photo with him, something like that. He is running from his base, and in running from his base, others are running toward the orange man. This is just absurd. And I mean, you've nailed it. You put yourself out there, Roland, in so many ways to say, let's get this work done. But we've got a president who seems to be afraid of his own shadow. And it's wrong. And then our vice president, we love her, of course, we love her, but she doesn't have the bandwidth because she has to report to the president to do what she needs to do. So what we have happening here is a president who's done very good work. The economy is doing okay. I'm not going to give it an A+, but maybe a B-. But considering the economy is doing okay, other things are doing okay, but guess what? The president is not holding his own. And he cannot be afraid of black people. He simply can't. And he can't be afraid of the Middle Eastern issue. Everybody's not going to agree with him, but people respect him.
Well,
he can't run from it. You can't run and you can't hide.
As I was looking through some of the social media posts of some of the different black elected officials who were there today in Philadelphia. So Aaron Ford, who's the Nevada Attorney General, he actually posted this here. And I thought it was pretty interesting. And so this is a graphic here. The Biden-Harris record for black Americans. Created 2.6 million jobs for black workers, lowest black unemployment rate on record, helped black entrepreneurs start businesses at the fastest rate in 30 years, capped the cost of insulin at $35 for seniors, helped close the racial wealth gap by 60%, invested more than $16 billion in HBCUs, and billions in student loan debt forgiven, passed the most significant gun safety legislation in decades, appointed the most ever black judges to the federal bench. Says Pennsylvania for Biden-Harris. Okay, I don't know who created that graphic. I think it's a great graphic. Here's what I don't understand. From a campaign standpoint, why wasn't that stuff kicked out everywhere? Everywhere. Everywhere. Not a white page, not a white paper, not a long speech, that graphic. Remember what we did the other day when we talked about federal judges? Okay, actually, I'm gonna show you. No, don't go to it yet. Don't go to it yet. Because I'm gonna show y'all something. What happened was there was a tweet that went out. There was a tweet that went out on the day, and it was from Chuck Schumer. And in that particular tweet, he talked about confirming that 200 federal judge. I was like, okay, it's a tweet. You need a graphic. Graphic got to be posted on various platforms. TikTok, Snapchat, these platforms. Here's what happened. So the next day, this was the graphic right here that was on Chuck Schumer's Twitter page. Go to it. Senate Democrats have confirmed 200 judges to lifetime appointments under President Biden. That's great. That's wonderful. Guess what? Want to see a black-specific graphic? Right here. 200. That's how many federal judges the Dem-run U.S. Senate has confirmed. 58 Biden-Harris judges are black, the most appointed by any president in one term in history. Hashtag Black Judges Matter. Now, to me, if you're rolling out this type of different deal, what you do is you have to supply your black supporters with materials that can actually support your initiative. To me, that's what you do. That's how you do it. Medical debt, one of the issues the vice president talked about. All I'm saying is this rollout should have been far more robust. It should have been robust. In fact, if you're going to send campaign people this morning on MSNBC, CNN, you should have folks on every black syndicated radio show. Steve Harvey, Breakfast Club, Ricky Smiley, Erica Campbell, on and on and on. Should have been on all of them. So what is frustrating to me is that if you're going to do it, go big. Go big. They're talking about rolling out an 8-figure investment. Okay, where? Where are you spending the money? What platforms? Black targeted, black owned, mainstream, which one? And as I said very clearly, they weren't covered today they were not covered by mainstream media. I actually posted a tweet on that. They didn't cover it. So again, you did a campaign event. What did you get out of it? If mainstream media skipped it, got it. What did you get out of the event? That's all I'm saying here. Because you have to combat the misinformation and you have to make it plain to people. God rest his soul. But Joe Madison would always say, put it where the ghost can get it. And that means you've got to actually do that. I called the folks at NNPA. They weren't aware of this event today. I talked to them directly. Several black radio people called me. They had no idea about the events today. There was media in Pennsylvania, black media in Pennsylvania, who wasn't aware about the events today. I'm just simply saying. And so I say, fine, you had the rollout. There has to be a very clear strategy, Rebecca, when it comes to between now and again. What are you doing? This is the end of May. So what is your plan in June? What is your plan in July? What is your plan leading up to the convention in August? And then what's the plan in September and October? It has to be different. And so who's at your disposal? How are you using people? How are you sending out various surrogates? Again, if I am Biden-Harris, if I am them, you know what I'm doing? I'm sitting here going, okay, you know what? I want to see town or city-specific town hall conversations discussing policies. Mayor Brandon Scott, I need, in the major battleground, I need them happening in these cities, in these states. Because if I'm doing it in Baltimore, I'm not just helping Biden-Harris, I'm also helping Angela Alsobrooks. If I'm doing this in other states, I'm helping different candidates. So again, that's just me. That's just how I see it. Hey, maybe I'm wrong. Just my thoughts.
You know, Roland, my other concern is that there was some news that came out yesterday that also surprised a lot of people. It came out that Biden and Harris will accept the nomination virtually instead of at the DNC in Chicago. And it was unclear, hey, are you doing this because of the protests? But then later on, we saw reports saying, hey, they have to do this in order to officially be on the ballot in Ohio. So the issue is those of us who are very engaged in the 2024 elections, we're not even getting the information that we should be getting, much less the general public. And so even to the point that I was making earlier, is that whatever rollout that you choose to do, you better talk to Black folks as Black people. You better talk to Black folks as equals. You can't just talk to them transactionally as voters, but you need to talk to them as constituents that you are accountable to. The language that I heard today was, well, Black voters, we need you to turn out again and save democracy. We need you to turn out again and make sure that Trump doesn't bring in Project 2025. I hear that. I understand that. I understand that argument, but it's also tone deaf. Hey, Black folks. Hey, constituents. Hold me accountable with what I said I was going to do. I'm going to talk about the things I have done. I'm going to acknowledge the things I have not done. And then I will tell you the plan for how I would do this if I get reelected in November. That's the type of conversation that you have when you respect people and you view people as equals. But to show up and do things transactionally, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good because it's not good. And even to your point, thinking through a local media, hey, Patty Jackson is well known, a Black radio host, very well known in Philadelphia. I didn't hear her talking about this. I didn't see her as one of the people who introduced Vice President Harris. There's so many small things that you do when you show up in a campaign, in a community. And if you don't do those small things, you're not being authentic to the very voters that you're trying to reach out to. And so there is a lack of authenticity here that if the Biden-Harris campaign, if they don't get it under control in the next couple of weeks, I'm afraid they are not going to win re-election in the fall. And that's just full out point blank. I know that there's a small handful of folks that President Biden listens to. They're going to cause you to lose your re-election campaign if you keep listening to them because they're not being very helpful. They're not giving you good wisdom and good advice. That's going to ultimately make you victorious in November.
Robert, that was a great scene in the movie The West Wing. The script star of the television show The West Wing. And there was a Latino leader who happened to be sitting courtside with a prominent Democrat, courtside of the basketball game. And the staff was like, what the hell? What is this guy doing? And this Democratic candidate was thinking about running against President Bartlett, played by Martin Sheen. So they hit the Latino leader, and he came to the White House. So they started telling him, we gave you this, 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 this. And he then said, that was the last election. What do I get now? So when I talk about what are you doing now, they have to articulate a forward-thinking agenda. And so it can't just be, we're going to get voting reform, we're going to get a criminal justice reform, but you told me that 4 years ago. And so that's the other thing. They have to articulate a forward agenda. I don't care if the slogan's called finish the job, whatever it is, but it has to be a forward-thinking agenda. What I am seeing right now, and again, let me be real clear. I've been paying a lot of attention. What I'm seeing and hearing a lot is, we did this, we did this, we did this, which is all stuff that you have to say. But you also have to articulate, but this is what I'm going to do for you if you give me 4 more years.
You're absolutely correct. And deep in the Atlanta market, the Biden and Harris campaign has been running these Trump or the devil commercials just into the ground. Trump is racist. Trump. Everybody knows that already. You're no longer moving the needle. You're wasting your money running those campaign commercials. The people who think Trump is a racist already aren't voting for Trump. The people who don't think Trump is a racist already are voting for Trump. You're not creating new voters. You're just simply navel gazing at that point in time. You need to be focusing on, one, the things that you have done and the things you will do. One thing that I have not heard this administration highlight at all is the fact that the first black female Supreme Court justice was appointed by them, the first black female vice president, the first black female UN secretary, first black female on the Federal Reserve, first black female press secretary, African-American male being head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, being defense secretary, 58 federal court judges. I will create a commercial of just Joe Biden shaking the hands of all the prominent African Americans that he has appointed, and then having him standing there saying that I've done this thus far, and this is what the agenda will be going forward. All the way down the HUD secretary, down the line. If you put Pete Buttigieg on television, you can take all of those appointees that Joe Biden has had and push them out nationwide to every, not just syndicated, every local black talk radio station and podcast around the country. If you notice with former President Trump, he will go on any podcast, he will go on any radio show, he will show up at any event, he will answer any question, he will talk to the voters because he's not afraid of his voters. President Biden has to stop running afraid because he seems to be more intimidated by Benjamin Netanyahu than he is by the entirety of the black community. As long as he runs on a campaign of being afraid and not wanting to answer the tough questions, well, you're not going to see any movement happening. And everything they said in that speech in Philadelphia, I can see the eye rolls and the groans taking place among voters who are hesitant to vote right now, because you're not pushing that bold agenda going forward as to what exactly you are going to do in the next 4 years. And there are many people who have nostalgia now for those 4 Trump years. We can no longer simply discount the black people who are supporting Trump. You got one of those influential young black female rappers, Sexy Red, running around the country with a MAGA hat on, saying "Make America Sexy Again." You got Waka Flocka Flame. You got Lil Pump. You got Woe Vicky. You got Teddy Riley. You got a lot of people in the community where it's starting to hit a tipping point where you can no longer simply say, "Well, those are just some crazy Negroes." Now you have to say, "Well, this is actually some statistical evidence saying that there are some young black voters who grew up in that period of time where you had President Trump as basically a reality show host as president, being entertaining, giving out stimulus checks to people, giving out PPP loans to people, telling your mama jokes, all those other things. And they see that through a lens of that being their childhood, that being a better time, that being a better day. And they see the Biden administration as being the adults in the room, paying the bills, keeping us out of wars, being boring. And you have to realize you have to message to those folks, because that's a new generation of voters. They're not tied down to the traditions of the black community. They're forging an entirely new future based on their own lived experience. And if you don't recognize that and address that, you're going to fall behind.
So here's the thing, as I look at this, Julian, and again, I was just sitting here thinking about imagery. I was thinking about the couch. Mm-hmm. And again, now some would say, "Oh, you're playing fear." I would actually lean to the couch. And I would say, this is how I would do it. I would say, "You pissed off about the Dobbs decision?" Yeah. That's because a lot of people stayed on the couch in 2016. Mm-hmm. Are you mad about affirmative action being overturned? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's because a lot of people stayed on the couch in 2016. Are you upset with it? That's the couch. Mm-hmm. I would make, here's the deal, and this is the crazy thing. They have a story to tell. I'm going to say this, and for the life of me, I have no idea why this White House and why the campaign doesn't do this here. This has been the most active civil rights division of the Department of Justice since Robert Kennedy was the Attorney General. They have put wardens in jail, jailers in jail, cops in jail, hate crime convictions. They've tackled redlining, on and on and on. They never talk about it. You did not get the George Floyd Justice Act. Got it. But you have a DOJ that is actually being aggressive in dealing with criminal justice reform. How do you not talk about it? What they've done is they've created this whole notion that no, we gotta create this wall between DOJ and the White House. Yeah, but you don't build a 30-foot wall to keep yourself out. You can't, they can literally say, Biden could stand there and say, under my Department of Justice, there are 10 patterns and practices, investigations of police department when it comes to police brutality, the treatment of American citizens, that was one under Donald Trump.
Really?
Hold on, I'm not done. He could say, we've invested in police training, but we've also held them accountable for bad actors when they do wrong. I do not understand how you have a criminal justice reform story to tell and they won't tell it. I am flabbergasted, and I have literally asked top White House officials, why do y'all never bring it up? I don't hear it coming from the White House podium. I don't hear it in his speeches. I don't hear it in her speeches. I don't hear it from the campaign. And it's like, what? Are you afraid that MAGA's gonna call you soft on crime? No, you can tell them we believe in accountability, and hell, we've got all the videos to show for it, Tyree Nichols and on and on and on. So I don't understand why they're scared to bring it up.
This is a typical problem with Democrats. They're always afraid to claim their base. There are a lot of things they have to say, they can say, really about, as you say, criminal justice reform or any number of other things. They're afraid to claim their base. They think they're going to alienate some crazy white man with a MAGA hat who wasn't going to vote for them anyway, but they're afraid of that. And, you know, Roland, I've been reading, I guess I'm bored, Project 2025, which is frightening. And I would invite our people, those who are watching you, who are, I guess, woke might be the word we might use, go read that stuff. Go see what they say they're going to do. They would eliminate the Department of Education. They would eliminate student debt reform, relief. There are a list of things. Of course, affirmative action and DEI are under the bus right now. Why does the Biden administration, they don't have to do it themselves. Let their surrogates do it. Let you do it. Let others who are passionate about basically our country, let them do it. Why are they being so silent and so scared, not scared, but scared of what the Orange Man and his team might say? It really is absurd that they're not claiming their legacy. The slide you showed earlier with the judges is really an important slide, because these are people who are going to be in the judiciary for 20, 30 years. And they're going to push back on Trump appointees. But why are they not dealing with this? I don't have an answer. I don't think anybody does. But what we know is that if they continue to play this, and James Carville called it, I think yesterday on CNN, if they continue to play this, they ain't going to win. This ain't going to win. You cannot win running scared. The other side is aggressive, assertive, forceful, exacting. And these are, right now, what I see is the Biden-Harris administration being a bunch of wimps. It's unacceptable. They're leaving us in the dust. They're forcing us to bite dust. And so, you know, you're absolutely, they need to hire you and have you working for them 24/7.
No. First of all, because I have little tolerance for folk who move slow, who take forever. Because I'm telling you right now, this graphic right here, I hit my man Keenan. We had it in 2 hours, and that was with revisions. Like, so the campaign still hasn't done this graphic. They still haven't done it. The campaign ain't done this graphic. That was Chuck Schumer's office. I'm like, what the hell are y'all doing? This is why you have rapid response. This is why you have a digital. In fact, are y'all aware? Now, the reason I saw Deal do this personally with the vice president. Are y'all aware that when they had the discussion in Milwaukee, Deal Hughley apologized to the vice president because he listened to what the trolls were saying about her record as California Attorney General, and he apologized for being wrong about her record? Have y'all seen the campaign push that video anywhere? That's a perfect example. This is a perfect example of how you totally blow a moment. Here you have D.L. Hughley saying, I made a mistake and I believed some lies about the records of Vice President Kamala Harris. And I ripped her in 2020 because of that. And I apologize for being wrong. They haven't run it anywhere.
That should be a video.
They haven't run it anywhere. And I'm going, what are you doing? So they're going to have again, a lot of things they're going to be doing. It's a lot more work that needs to be done when it comes to this black outreach effort. So I know they're watching. Just I hope y'all paying attention.
Somebody's killing more people, and it's going on.
When COVID happened, poor people were dying at a rate already of 800 people a day. Before COVID, if you went to a funeral every single day, it would take you 600 years to attend all the funerals of the people who will die from the ravages of policy violence, poverty, and low wages in America in just 1 year. It would take you 2 years and 19 days to go to all of the funerals of the people that will die today, and oftentimes silence. Nobody talks about this political genocide, but we are determined today to remember their death and be a resurrection of voting power and voice power like never before.
Economic justice and saving this democracy are deeply connected. We, as a nation, must listen to the demands of the poor, who are pushing and will continue to push political candidates and elected leaders to lift from the bottom so that everybody can rise.
We are the poor, the marginalized, and the underpaid. And we are taking one step forward to say that everybody has a right to live.
Poverty is not the fault of those who are impoverished. It is caused by those who make the policy.
There are over 135 million poor and low-wage, low-income people in this nation.
The biggest block of potential voters by far is low-income, low-wage voters.
I can't afford medicine. Sometimes I have to skip because of the cost.
The farm worker community is tired of the violence imposed upon us by greed, exclusion, and denial of basic human rights.
Those folk that represented by that casket, poor and low-wage workers who are the most moral people in this country because they go to work every day believing, even though going to work is hazardous to their health.
I'm tired of working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not have money for the necessity of bills. I'm tired of getting sick and not being able to go see the doctor, having to make a choice to pay between rent or the light bill or food or clothes.
You cannot claim to care about families and a culture of life and then do everything in your power to rob people of equal access to resources and to force them to live in poverty.
Leadership of both parties had waged war on poor people and low-wage workers.
And this government has treated people experiencing poverty, including their military families, with disdainful, deliberate, malicious neglect.
So the truth is that my son died from poverty.
We refuse to accept poverty as the fourth leading cause of death.
The fourth leading cause of death in this, the richest country in the world.
We march today for our children and the generations to come.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
We will voice our demands and register our vote.
When we stand up and when we stand together, things change.
There is the electorate that is, and then there is the electorate that should be.
34 million eligible poor and low-income voters did not vote in 2016. If just 20% of those voters in swing states were mobilized around an agenda, they could change the political outcome of every election. So we're launching the most massive voter mobilization and turnout campaign in history of poor and low-wage voters, allies, and religious leaders.
People are dying, but we know it doesn't have to be this way. And so we are calling on everyone to join us in this Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival.
We are here, we will be seen, we will be heard, and our power will be felt. We don't need to be an insurrection. We are a resurrection that will be felt across this country. Are you ready? 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 We are a resurrection, and we are ready.